So let's get rolling here because we want to try. We'll be respectful of everybody's time. We booked this from 12 to 1, so we'll try to wrap up right at 1. We're not muted, right? Okay, Andrew, you can hear me, right?
I got you, Brian.
Okay, cool. Most people in the room probably know me. I'm Brian Reese with Raymond James CKE Financial Services. We're the financial planning partner of Corrigan Krause, located here in Westlake at Crocker Park. And just a quick 30 seconds on us. So we're a full service financial services team. We work with individuals, individual financial planning. We work with corporations, managing 401k plans and pension plans. So anything that you have questions on, need help with, by all means, there's someone on the team that can help you out. With that, you don't want to hear me talk. I'm not the featured speaker or the expert on this topic, but with us on Zoom, we've got a gentleman from MFS. So we've got Andrew Gordon, who has been through comprehensive Social Security training with MFS to become a Social Security, I don't think his compliance department lets us say expert. So we'll stick with it.
Yeah.
We'll stick with enthusiast.
Yeah.
So MFS is a fantastic partner of ours. They not only provide us with mutual fund solutions for clients, but also provide support such as this to bring in a speaker that is an enthusiast with Social Security. At the end, ask questions throughout. At the end, I'll remind you, we're going to do a kind of part 2 of this later in the year, probably in the fall, which is a Medicare presentation. So now we're talking Social Security, and Medicare is kind of the next logical step later this year. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Andrew, and let you do your thing.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Brian, and to the rest of the CKE team. It is a pleasure. I love the enthusiast title I need to have, and it's whatever compliance is. It makes me sound like I do nothing but Social Security and I have no life outside of it and whatever. But you know, I promise you I am fun. I don't just talk about Social Security all day. But with that, it is important. It's a very important topic. In fact, I just bought a house. I close in a couple of weeks, and I'm moving 2 doors down from my in-laws, if you could believe that. So in a town that I grew up in as well. So but the reason I tell you that is I'm so close to my family, and my mother-in-law loves to talk Social Security with me. In fact, so much that she cuts out pages of the Boston Globe. This week's all on Social Security questions that come through every week. I've gotten them every single day or every single week from her for like 2 years. Now she's going to be able to walk them over. But the reason I tell you that is that if there's one key theme with Social Security is that it is very complicated, and not knowing the answers, that's okay. That's okay, I promise you. There are several factors needed in order to consider when to take Social Security, when's that best opportunity. There's so many factors, but really, this is a great first step of really understanding the rules. And I really suggest anyone in this room, if you have follow-up questions, happy to take those, but also always talk to Brian and the rest of the team, because it's going to be a piece of your financial puzzle, because it's actually estimated about 40% of Social Security should fit about your pre-retirement income needs. So want to make sure that you're on a track for that. And you got to account for the extra 60%, and it's just a piece of that puzzle. So one thing I will note is that I do work for MFS. I proudly work for MFS. We celebrate our 100-year anniversary just a few months ago, but I do not work for the Social Security Administration. So I don't make the rules. I just provide some guidance on them, and I'm clearly enthusiastic about it in the way. So with this, we're going to cover a few main topics today. The first thing is we're going to first discuss how benefits are calculated. It's a very important topic. Then we're going to discuss options that may be available to you if you are married or have ever been married. And then we'll end with everyone's favorite topic, taxes in your retirement plan. So with that, one of the most important and fundamental aspects of Social Security benefits is understanding your full retirement age, because that's what almost every single calculation is going to be based on. You'll hear me say full retirement age. You also hear me say FRA, because in this business, we love abbreviations if we can have it. So FRA and full retirement age. The importance of it can be highlighted here. We used this timeline in order to where you can easily find out, hey, what year were you born? Here's your full retirement age. Born 1954 or before, your full retirement age is 66. Pretty much, if you're born then, you're probably taking Social Security at this point because you either just turned 70 or took it before. 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. The gradual change goes from 1955 to 59, where you can see every year after that, they add 2 months. This right now is that prime retirement age. I know my in-laws just retired, born in 1957. My mom's born in 1959. You can see the little bit of changes in that, have to do a little bit of math, but this, just understanding your full retirement age and the month that is going to be vitally important. And you can see this highlights really the reason why I'm going to focus on retirement age 67, because if you were to claim benefits at your full retirement age, you will get 100% of your benefit. If you claim benefits before your full retirement age, your benefits will be permanently reduced. However, if you claim benefits after your full retirement age, it will grow by 8% per year up until age 70. Now, this is in addition to any cost of living adjustments that are added every year. The cost of living adjustment for 2024 is 3.2%. And as a general rule, it's going to vary year to year. But if you're planning for any sort of benefits, I definitely say put it at about 2.5%, about there, just as a guide if you're trying to plan for years in advance. The eligibility requirements for Social Security, it's pretty simple. Have you worked your 40 quarters? If you have, you are eligible. Many will say 10 years, but really it's 40 quarters. The Social Security Administration will then average out your 35 highest earning years in order to determine what your retirement benefit will be. If you don't have 35 years, that's okay. They will put zeros. It will affect a little bit the total, but it will average out your 35 highest earning years. And if I were to meet with anyone, if you were to meet with Brian, he calls me in and says, hey, when should I take Social Security? That's the number one question I get asked every single day. My first question to you will be, are you still working? Because that's important. If you're younger than your full retirement age, there is a limit of how much you can earn and still receive Social Security benefits. If you're under your full retirement age and still working, the withholding, or before there would be a withholding, you can earn up to $22,320. That is on an annual basis. If it is on the first year you are taking, first calendar year you're taking those Social Security benefits, it is actually on a monthly basis. You can see it as $1,860 per month. Now, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I've heard people say, hey, I make $50,000. I can actually, between my 401k, my IRA, my taxes, I'll get that down to under 22,000. I wish that could be the case. This is a gross number. The 22,320 is a gross number to make. So just as you're planning, just so you know. Now, this withholding applies to any Social Security benefit you will receive. It affects your own retirement benefit, spousal, survivor, even divorce benefits. You'll hear me say that throughout the presentation. That's just because it's so important. A couple of the most common questions I receive when it comes to the earnings limit is, what does it apply to? The earnings limit applies to the wages that you'll earn. So think your paychecks. Any unearned income, think pensions, IRAs, passive rental income, those are not considered. The next is, when does the earnings test take effect? The earnings test will take effect the first month you start taking Social Security. So say you're going to take Social Security in June. You're retired, you're going to start taking it just in a couple of weeks. The earnings limit will start to look on June 1st whenever you start getting that paycheck. Anything you've earned from January through May of this year will not be considered. And the last question is, I'm married. My spouse is still working. They're making good money. Does that affect the earnings limit? It does not. So even though you file your taxes jointly, Social Security is only going to look at the wages of the individual taking those benefits. And speaking of marriage, let's talk about options for married couples and divorcees. Let's start with spousal benefits. When you calculate spousal benefits, you need to think of this in terms of dollar amounts and percentages. The amount of money you are set to receive is always based off of your spouse's full retirement age benefit regardless of when they take that benefit. So if they were to take at age 62 and have it be reduced, you're still going to go off their age, say 67 number. If they were to wait to age 70 and take their benefits, you're still going to be subject to that age 67 number. The percentage you'd be set to receive is based off of your age when you apply. So often I hear people say, oh, I'm going to get half. It's up to half, which is like a nice little caveat there. You can see the sliding scale. So if you are at your full retirement age, 67, you will be subject to 50% of their full retirement age benefits. But you can see that sliding scale that if you were to take spousal benefits at age 62, 63, that those numbers are not 50%. It's 32.5%, 35%. So just be aware it's up to 50% is what you would be entitled to. There's a couple important points I'd also want to share is your spouse needs to apply for their benefit in order for you to receive a spousal off of them. The second is you're eligible for spousal benefits even if you've never worked. So while your own retirement benefit, you needed those 40 quarters, for spousal benefits, that is not a requirement. You just need to have a spouse who is able to pay into Social Security. One thing I will like to note, if you have 2 income earners in your house, there's something that you could use called the excess spousal benefit. Now we can get into the weeds. It'd probably be better off on a one-on-one with me, you, and Brian. But if there's a large disparity of income earners in your household, say one benefit is $3,000, the other is $1,000, right? There's actually something where the lower earner could potentially apply first, get a lower benefit that they have, and then when their spouse applies, get an excess spousal benefit. Now, you wouldn't get the full 50%, but you would potentially bridge that gap. So if that's for you and your family where there is a larger disparity and you have the lower earner who wants to retire, maybe get some income on the side now, that is a potential opportunity. Be more than happy to talk in depth. But there's the equation is your maximum spousal benefit at full retirement age, your benefit at full retirement age. If there's a positive number, that will be added to what you're receiving. Once again, that's a better one-on-one question, but if that applies to you, certainly reach out to Brian and the rest of the team. Let's move on to survivor benefits. Survivor benefits are very similar to that of spousal, but there are a few key differences. The first key difference, you can start benefits starting at age 60. So while on retirement benefits or spousal, those start at 62, you get the 2 years earlier. Granted, all of those benefits are reduced and subject to the earnings test if under full retirement age. Once again, I need you to think of benefits in terms of amounts and percentages. For survivor benefits, they're different. The amount is based off of what the deceased was receiving at their death. So when I just spoke about spousal, where it didn't matter if they were taken at 62, 67, or 70, it was always based off that 67 number. Your claiming decision, the deceased claiming decision, I should say, does have an effect. So if the person who's passed away took benefits at 62, that is the amount you'd be subject to. If they took benefits at 60 or at 70 and got that 8% per year, that would be the amount that you'd be subject to. So this, I often have discussions with many clients throughout the country, and it's a we, not me decision. You can see after someone passed away that the percentage or the amount that you're getting is based off of influenced by your claiming decision when you claim. Now, just like in spousal, where you have, oh, it's 50%, up to 50, this for survivor is up to 100%. The percentage is based off of your age when you claim. You can see that sliding scale there goes from 71.5 all the way up to 100% based off of your age when you claim those benefits. Now, the most common question I receive when it comes to survivor benefits is, what happens if my spouse passed away before they claimed? Well, the answer is twofold, and of course, is based off of full retirement age. If they've passed away before their full retirement age and did not claim, the Social Security Administration will give you the amount of their full retirement age benefits. The Social Security Administration does not want to penalize someone to have someone who's passed away in their early 60s or whatever and did not claim. They will give you their age, say 67 number. The next is, oh, they tried to get to 70, but they passed away at age 68. What happens? Well, you would get their age 68 amount. You get the amount that you receive as if they claimed on their day of death. So you can really see why your claiming decision could affect the people you love the most, really your spouse, if you were to pass away, and the survivor benefits certainly highlight. So there are two options for widows and widowers. Now, the option that's going to be best for you is going to be very evident, and it's going to be based on the amounts you are either currently receiving or expected to receive, but I'll briefly cover both. Option one, you're going to start with a reduced survivor benefit and then switch to your own retirement benefit. Under this benefit, you can start survivor at age 60 and then switch to your retirement from 62 to even 70. So what I've seen so many people do, this is when their retirement benefits are very similar in that of amounts, where they take a reduced survivor, they're not working, then they let their own benefit grow all the way to age 70, get that 8% per year after full retirement age, and then turn theirs on at age 70. So they got that extra 24%. Option two is just the inverse. This is a larger disparity of their retirement benefits, where you'd start with your own reduced retirement benefit and then switch to full survivors. You can do this starting at age 62, but this maximizes at your full retirement age, 67. You don't get that extra 8% per year up until age 70. This option maximizes at your full retirement age. Once again, the earnings limit does apply to any sort of benefit you are receiving. You've heard me say it a few times before and probably a couple more times here on out. Now I'm going to move on to divorce benefits. There is a magic number to know, and that is 10 years. So if you are married, buckle up because you're in it for a decade. I say that strictly from a Social Security point of view. I joke with my wife, since I do these so often, we've been married for almost 8 years. I'm like, just 2 more years, honey, we're fine. It'll go, hopefully it's many more decades, but we often joke it's just 2 more years because it is that 10-year rule. Unlike married couples, though, where your spouse needs to apply for you to receive a spousal benefit, divorced couples do not have to do that. You do not need to talk to your ex-spouse ever, really, again, when it comes to getting benefits. It does not matter if they're claiming. It really doesn't matter at all. The one piece of information you need is your divorce decree. That is the one thing that you need to prove. It doesn't need to be original. It needs to be a copy. And as a general rule, I feel like if you're getting these benefits, a spousal, a survivor, or a divorce benefit, basically benefits off of someone else, it's probably in your best interest to make an appointment in person so you can show the paperwork, additional paperwork that you may need, just as a general rule. But make sure for divorce benefits, you have your divorce decree. Now, the amounts you're set to receive follow the same guidelines of spousal and survivor we just spoke about. Now, with divorce, sometimes comes remarriage. Actually, 50% of people who get divorced marry someone else. Here's a couple of key things to know. That you wouldn't think that your remarriage decision could affect your Social Security, but it can. And I want to get this question out of the way because it comes up all the time. What your former spouse decides to do after your marriage ends has no effect on your Social Security benefits. They can get remarried. It does not matter. You can have 2 people taking benefits off of this one person. It really does not matter. But your decision and what you decide to do does have an effect. Generally speaking, if you remarry, you forfeit all benefits off your former spouse. There are a couple of exceptions. First is if you remarry after age 60. If it's after age 60, you lose the spousal benefits off of your former spouse, but you keep the survivor benefits if that's eligible. And then the next is if your second marriage or third marriage ends in divorce, annulment, or death, you could become re-entitled to the benefits off of your first marriage. So just a couple of nuances there. So just speaking from a Social Security lens and Social Security lens only, my bit of advice is if you are married, plan on being married for at least 10 years. If you do get divorced, just know that there is a remarriage decision you have to factor in if you're trying to get in another relationship. But really, marry wisely and keep track of your exes because in theory, they are worth more dead than alive. Once again, there's a nice little Social Security joke for you. But we will end in one of the most common sayings we see is there are only two certainties in life, death and taxes. We just covered one of them. Let's cover the other. Now, just like I don't work for the Social Security Administration, I am the enthusiast, but I also don't work for the IRS, but a couple of important points to note. Once you start taking Social Security, your benefits may be taxable if your income exceeds $25,000 if you're single, or $32,000 if married filing jointly. Now, one thing I will note, we've noted in those blue boxes, is that if you're in that, let's say $32,000 to $44,000, 50% of your benefits are eligible to be taxed at your ordinary income. You are not getting 50% taxed. 50% of benefits are eligible to be taxed. Additionally, 44,000 and above, 85% of your benefits are eligible to be taxed at ordinary income. You're not getting an 85% tax bill on your Social Security. One thing just to know. Now, how much of your Social Security benefits are taxable is found through combined income. IRS Social Security created this, and this is how it's done. Your AGI, your adjusted gross income, which is wages, IRA distributions, pensions, capital gains. Pretty much if you've made money, that is your AGI. Then you add your tax exempt income, then you add half of Social Security. That is how you combine, that's how you find combined income. Now, there are a couple of exceptions with AGI, and they're right here. You have your Roths, your qualified charitable distributions, your HSAs. These are ways that that won't affect your AGI, just something to note. Roths are a big proponent right now. I'm sure you all know if you want to do a Roth conversion, that's certainly someone to talk to your advisor about. I'm sure a tax professional could help you as well. But make sure that you know what Roth conversions could do to your taxable income. And if you're getting to that Medicare age, which I know Medicare, you'll probably see me on the screen at some point in the fall, it will affect your IRMAs because it does look at that your MAGI, your mass adjusted gross income from 2 years prior. So it's something to note. Speaking of that, if anyone knows about the form SSA-44, so Social Security Administration-44, this is a form that I would keep in your back pocket and know for if you have anyone that you know who is taking Medicare and is taking Social Security around that age. What it does is it is a petition to the Social Security Administration saying, hey, I know my income from 2 years prior was this, but I had a life event. The life events on that page, you can look it up. It's marriage, divorce, a work reduction. So my mother-in-law was a nurse who worked from 40 hours a week down to 12, or a work stoppage. There's all these life events that could qualify you from saying, hey, I used to make this, now I make this. Could you lower my Medicare premiums? Now, there could be an instance where they say no, but I've seen people lower their Medicare premiums from $80 to $200 a month. It could happen. So if you know anyone in that realm, including yourself, I'd fill out form SSA-44 and petition it. The one thing I will note is selling a house for a massive capital gain, not a qualifying life event. I'm very sorry, but you'll see the list of the things there. Something to talk to a tax professional about for sure. So as I end here, and if these articles are a small example of the population, there's just simply so much to consider with Social Security. Talking with Brian and the rest of the team, a tax professional, is really going to put that in perspective, making sure you have all your investments lined up, making sure that 40% is a key piece of that puzzle. But to close the statement, we love acronyms. We're going to end with looking at Social Security through a lens, LENS. First is looking at it through life expectancy. You know, are your parents alive in their 80s or 90s? How's their health? I don't want a situation where you make a decision in your 60s affect you, not only your life, but your spouse's life as well in the 80s and the 90s where income could be more of a necessity. E, employment. When talking Social Security, you heard me here say it. If you're working under your full retirement age, there is that limit of how much you can earn. N is needs. Never want you to run out of money. Make sure that the Social Security is that key piece of the puzzle, not only for yourself, but for your spouse as well. And of course, S is that spouse. It is a we, not me decision. And I appreciate everyone's time today. Always happy to take questions. And Brian, thank you very much for giving me the floor. With that, I'll take any sort of questions that anyone has, both in person or virtual.
Sure, Andrew, I'll start with a question. We always hear about, and I don't know if you've got any input on this or any ideas, but we all hear about Social Security being in trouble and some possible changes that can be made to Social Security to make sure it's around for us all for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on along those lines on what can be changed, should be changed, or what's being talked about?
Sure. So if you've seen something that comes through, oh, Congress is trying to pass a bill, everything that's been in front of Congress lately is all bones and no meat. I think, and it's not a political statement, it's just there's nothing to it. So many things you're going to say, oh, it's going to run out of money, it's going to run out of money. If there's anything I know about Washington, D.C., is that deadlines spur action, and they will make those changes when that deadline is going to hit. So it is expected to be 80% funded, the retirement trust fund, starting at 2032, meaning that right now there's more going out than is going in. I don't expect there to be any sort of reform up until leading up to 2032. It's just simply, I just don't expect that. So think between now and then, there's going to be 2 presidential elections, going to be a third. A lot can change. And when they actually make that reform, it's going to be a lot closer to that deadline. That's just how they work over in Washington. Now, if you have a client or yourself to say, hey, listen, I'm getting $2,000 a month. It's only going to be funded 80%. Am I only going to get 80% of my check? We don't expect that at all. Social Security sets precedent, meaning if you are currently receiving your check, $2,000, you're going to continue to receive that check of $2,000. If there's no reform, it's going to be people like me who fortunately shouldn't be taking Social Security for a number of decades. They're going to kick that down the road and have me deal with that later on, and people of my age group. But there will be reform. There will be reform. I don't see any presidential candidate running on, I'm going to take your Social Security away. Once again, not a political statement. It's just I don't expect that to happen. A couple of things that they could do. First, raise the full retirement age from 67. I don't expect it to go to 70. I do expect it to maybe go to 68. Additionally, there's a limit of how much Social Security is going to be taxing. It's about 168,000 and change. It continues to climb. I would expect that number to go much higher. I don't know how much higher. I know Medicare is uncapped. I don't think they will uncap it, but there are a few levers that they will be able to pull in order to make sure that everything continues to be more funded in those. But I wouldn't expect, if you're trying to take benefits, I've heard people be like, oh, I want to take my benefits now, even though it's reduced. So I get it. I don't expect that to be a thing. I don't expect any meaningful material change to happen at least until 2030.